What are your thoughts on the whole Israel-Palestine situation happening?
I think it doesn't take that much thought to just realize that it's barbaric.
As things are at the moment, tensions are extremely high as a result of a terrorist attack and what Jews would refer to as a pogrom that occurred over the last weekend, where over 1,200 Israeli citizens and international citizens were murdered in cold blood. I think that it's important for the international community to be able to recognize what has happened as a terrorist attack and to condemn it.
The wording is totally wrong. The word terrorist attack is wrong because there's a lot of hypocrisy. When Ukraine is fighting Russia, it's called freedom fighters. Say, for instance, that's hypocrisy. When Hamas is fighting back and the Palestinian people are fighting back against the occupation, it's called terrorism. I think those slight words are very deceiving in that way.
The killings are not justified. Nothing, the occupation, nothing at all is justified. And I think it's truly something that everybody should just stand up against and realize, because a threat to justice somewhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Peace can never be achieved globally if peace is disturbed in one place. This has to come into an end. Children being killed, dreams being killed, families, fathers, mothers, and it's just truly so sad to witness.
I know this is like a hard question to ask, but try and still man their perspective or enter their mindset and think, why are they doing what they're doing, given like the past and history? What's their argument for?
I don't think there's anything like very empirical or anything sensible to it, but I think it's just they are power hungry and they just want that recognition. As you see, they want to be recognized as a state, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a state. There's nothing wrong with having a country of your own, but they're crossing boundaries. They're killing innocents, and that's where it comes. Like if I'm to if I want to start a new country, and let's say perhaps I can start that country, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I shouldn't hurt other people in the process. Killing one man is like killing the whole world.
I'm here with
Mujahid Bulbulia.
And
Yoni Lipschitz.
Question for today is, what are your guys' stance on the whole Israel-Palestine situation?
Correct. I'm totally for Palestine and the resistance to make Palestine free and to end the occupation and the apartheid state of Israel.
Okay. And you?
I come here at a challenging time right now, where a large scale terrorist attack was carried out in Israel this past weekend, and many innocent lives of people from all around the world were lost. People were murdered, kidnapped. There were rapings, beheadings and immolations. And right now I come here where it's a very difficult time to speak about politics in the morning of what has happened. However, I acknowledge the fact that politics and conversation and productive dialogue is an inevitable feat that is going to need to be had in order to achieve a joined peace at some stage, hopefully in the near future.
I'm going to ask you guys to do something challenging. I'm going to ask you guys to both stillman each other's perspective. So you stillman the Israeli perspective and Palestine, etc.
I want to start off by saying the wording is totally wrong. Terrorist attacked, right? Which
when I say stillman, it's like,
I think that the word terrorist attack is wrong because there's a lot of hypocrisy. When Ukraine is fighting Russia, it's called freedom fighters. Say, for instance, that's hypocrisy. When Hamas is fighting back and the Palestinian people are fighting back against the occupation, it's called terrorism. I think those slight words are very deceiving in that way. And there was a thing that's saying that the attack was unprovoked. Palestinians have faced over 70 years of oppression, starting from a full Palestinian state, cut it down to less, and then 20% was supposed to go to Palestinians, but now it's even less. I think this is a resistance movement, and when people are oppressed, resistance is the key to move forward towards peace. That's what I think, and I think the Palestinian people are very oppressed in a huge open-air prison in Gaza. And
just to stop you there, when I say stillman, I wanted you to give the Jewish perspective and to try to express and think from their perspective why they're right, and he will do the counter. Where do you think their talking points come from? How can they justify their actions? I wanted to see if you can think from their perspective. If not, it's also okay.
I cannot think that their actions are right because I think that everything was provoked, right? And resistance is born from this provocation, right? People who are oppressed are going to resist. So I don't see their perspective.
Okay. Do you see their perspective?
I think I am able to conduct a steelman argument on the situation. I think Palestinians are 100% suffering and being oppressed in the West Bank, Eritrea, and in Gaza. I think that I can acknowledge that as a result of modern day Israeli policy, Palestinian suffering and injustice is inherently going to come about as a part of modern day Israeli policy in politics. However, I also believe that Palestinian suffering is multifaceted in that the entire suffering of the Palestinian people cannot be blamed only on an Israeli regime. I think that there is multiple... I think that the Palestinian economy is non-existent. It's crushed. There's nothing in place to allow them to be able to find their deserved liberation in the situation from outside and within the borders. I think that the Hamas regime is a terrorist organization. I believe that innocent Palestinians are they inherently will buy into the values that they're taught from a young age, and without anything around them to suggest otherwise, it's understandable that they would buy into the militant groups.
Why do you think it's a terrorist organization? As he mentioned previously, it's like when the labeling to basically said it's propaganda and the steelman. Okay.
I think that there are very clear differences between a resistance movement such as Mkhonto weSizwe in comparison to the Hamas regime.
What's the difference?
If we were to read the Mkhonto weSizwe, remind me what the mission, the charter, what the charter wrote compared to what's in the Hamas charter. I think that the objectives are very different. Yes, Hamas is calling for the liberation of the Palestinian people. However, it's also calling for the destruction of a state of Israel and the Jewish people's right to equal sovereignty in the land. The Mkhonto weSizwe charter, from my understanding, spoke for freedom of all people and equality of all people. I think it's important for us to acknowledge that both Jewish people as well as Arab Muslims living in the areas have a connection to the land and are indigenous in some way. It's important in being able to recognize that both groups are indigenous and I believe have rights to self-determination and sovereignty in the land. This becomes complex when Jews are threatened in a way which perpetuates the denial of their right to sovereignty in the area. In the same as goes for the Palestinians living in the area, I think that the death toll of Palestinians is also multifaceted. It doesn't. I think from what I understand, it majorly comes from bombings conducted by the Israeli government as well as misfires from the Hamas regime, where I think it should be acknowledged that Hamas, the tactics used by them are to station militant activities within civilian densely populated areas such as schools, hospitals, orphanages, whereby it becomes very difficult to control aggressive militant activity without the death of innocent civilians. I think it should also be acknowledged that not that Israel conducts a perfect role in this, however, there is a willingness to protect civilian life, decrease civilian casualties in the militant tactics that are used, such as roof knocking, where a bomb is dropped on a Hamas-controlled area, which first releases a minor explosion, which isn't deadly or will result in casualties. And I'm going to quickly counter that. I'm going to quickly take a steelman argument on that. And what he said earlier is that it's not like the innocent civilians in the area can just, get up and go across the road and we'll go protect ourselves there. The entire place is run down. There isn't much of a place for them to go. But that situation is extremely, extremely complex because, the Israelis also have the belief I believe that there needs to be a protection against terrorism, against innocent civilians being attacked.
Yeah.
To try and win in all areas, but where we're protecting civilians of Israel and making sure that no one dies no one is murdered in Palestine, and suppress a violent terrorist organization, and make sure that everyone has conditions in Palestine. It becomes very difficult to try and juggle everything and try and make sure all boxes are ticked.
So wait, I just also wanted to ask, there's no common ground on the terrorist organization part, so you believe it's not, and you,
I think we're
so
going to
it's
struggle
like,
to find
okay.
ground on that.
Can I just speak quickly on the thing that you said that it's indigenous to both parties? I agree with that. And I think that before 1948, when the State of Israel was formed, Muslims, Christians as well, it's a holy land to Christians as well, and Jewish people lived in an open state. I mean, there was not apartheid. This is basically like putting people into Bantustans, I don't know, in like South Africa, do you understand? So before 1948, people lived together, you know, the Jewish people, Christian people as well, because the Holy Sepulchre Church is also there, and then the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they believe the temple and the Wailing Wall. So I believe all of that in 1948, when the Ottoman Empire still ruled, even before that, they lived harmoniously as one state. The second thing, as you were saying, with the tactics of Hamas, like where they formed in Gaza as a military base, I slightly disagree with that. I think that Gaza is the most densely populated area in the world. As you can see, a lot of the Palestinians were forced into that Gaza Strip. It's not like a land was given to the Palestinian people. Initially, when they came up with a two-state solution, they said, we're going to give 20% of the land to the Palestinian people, which the PA did negotiate with, but still Israel carried on to take land, you know, and that two-state solution fell apart. So people were put into this open-air prison, which is like one of the most dense places in the world. So your schools and your hospitals and your orphanages, your residential areas, their military base, it's all next to each other. So wherever they're fighting from, it's not like I can go to open land and fight. There's literally buildings everywhere, which is now actually flattened a lot of the places in Gaza, like the main city, which they call the heart of Gaza, or the main town. It's flattened right now. And as you said, with the warning shots, I agree. You said that there was warning shots to certain buildings and that. But then straight after that, there's not enough time given and children are murdered. I think it was, out of maybe 700 Palestinians, in a few days ago, it was 200 of them were children, like, you know, like toddlers, small babies that you're seeing. And it's not like, obviously, hand-to-hand murders or whatever. It's by these bombs. So I'm not going to call it like that. And another thing that they said, like, there's very safe military tactics. I disagree, because America have been releasing against international law, white phosphorus onto Gaza, which weakens the bones, deteriorates it. It's something like, do you know, in America, they used to release like napalm. It's all of this going against international law. There's also now, they are against international law because they're not allowing food into the country. Electricity powers are cut off. There's no water in Gaza. Everything is blockaded. It's basically a siege now. So the people who are innocent in Gaza can't receive anything. The power stations were bombed. For what reason? I don't know. The power stations, right? So there's no electricity. How do they get water? Like aid that maybe non-profitable organizations, maybe like Gift of the Givers, Islamic Relief, some of South Africa's organizations who want to get to Gaza, they can't get to Gaza because it's blockaded off. But any casualties on the Israeli side, it's accessible. If I wanted now, I could donate to Israel. I can't donate to Palestine directly to Gaza. If I wanted to go help in Gaza now, I can't help there. But in fact, if I wanted to help for Israel, I could. So it's these few things that, you know, it makes this war like very unfair. And do you get what I'm saying?
I hear you, but like war and being fair, it doesn't sound right. But
100%.
I hear you. This is a very complex situation, and I feel like we're gonna kind of speak in circles based on our own propaganda. But I'm gonna give you guys an opportunity to ask each other 2 questions each, right? What question would you like to ask him and vice versa?
Yeah.
Do you also need a... Okay, cool. Don't be too long now. Okay, besides, let me give you guys a question. What do you think the solution should be from both perspectives? Like, how could we... And it's complex, I get it.
I think
like,
we're
but
looking at way too... I think we're trying to solve rocket science right now. If we're going to look at a solution, I think solution
it's your best attempt.
I think
your best attempt.
As an accounting science student, you think that I could actually solve this type of math? Like, this is super complex. But what I would like to say, because again, I don't think I've dived deeply enough into...
I think we'll be here for 5 hours.
I think we would be here for 5 hours, and that wasn't my goal in this.
Yeah.
My goal wasn't to defend any parties right now or push an agenda. My goal, which I said to a lot of my mates before today, I would love to be able to go to varsity on Friday and actually just engage in some productive dialogue without creating hate, without creating a violent atmosphere with someone, in recognizing their humanity and hopefully them being able to recognize my humanity in our will for some form of peaceful resolution in the future. And my belief is that on the forefront, both Jews and Palestinians in the area need to be able to recognize both people's right to self-determination and sovereignty in the area. Both people need to recognize the other party's suffering in history, Jewish and Palestinian suffering, and thereby being able to create a space where we can somehow start coming together and seeing where we actually have common ground, in the sense that we both have suffering, historical suffering, in the sense that we both are indigenous to the land. Both Muslim Arabs and Jews are Semites. They're both groups who come from the area, and we're cousins. We're distant relatives, and there needs to be a way for us to come together and start speaking about how we can find common ground, as opposed to always clinging on to what we've come from, the agenda that we've come from, and holding on to that for dear life, because those super polar views inherently drive a zero-sum game, which means someone's got to win, someone's got to lose, someone's got to die. And by clinging on to that, there's never going to be a recognition of the other party's suffering and rights and humanity. So for me, it's been a privilege to be able to engage, because in general, it's like it's taboo. It's like, don't you dare try and have a conversation with anyone who doesn't agree with you or doesn't see your view. So for me, it's been a privilege to be able to have this conversation. And I'm hoping that going forward, we can start looking to create spaces where productive conversation is a possibility. I'd also just like to say that I think it has to start from the ground up, where a lot of people think it has to start from government down. I think that people being able to start speaking to each other and hearing each other, like looking at each other and seeing that we're both humans, that is what can help create change in the situation, as opposed to relying on corrupt or politically motivated people in power to drive their agendas and save everyone. I don't think that's what's going to help. I think it's about being able to have conversation and create dialogue and not cling onto our polar opposite views at all times.
I agree with him. Like, I was really like hoping to have a discussion, you know, like even when I came here I was a bit bummed, like the security guards like saying we can't have a discussion, because this was like a good, you know, get your point of views, you know. I agree with him on that topic, you know, like it would be nice to have a discussion, or else you can't just keep your own views, or you know.
Did it shift your perspective in any ways, or
not entirely? I'll be honest, but it's good always to have a discussion, to put it on a platform like this, get other people aware of what's happening from two perspectives. They have their own brains to choose, you know, which side, both sides, in fact, or whatever, seeing civilian, you know.
Do you think there is a middle? Because
I don't...
too extreme. Do you think we can find a middle?
I think the middle, which will be like, obviously, it's so far-fetched, we can't be like ordinary civilians.
It has to start somewhere.
It starts here. But I think, just like South Africa, the end to apartheid is the only solution, in my opinion. If there's an end of the Israeli apartheid regime and the violence and everything, and I think we'll have peace, you know. That's the only solution that I can think of.
Okay, dope. That was cool.
Yeah. Thanks, man. It was a pleasure. Thank you.